the age when the oceans were maps of fortune and fear, the line between merchant and marauder was often drawn not by law but by survival. This is the story of one man, a pirate, whose name would fade from the records of empires but linger in the whispers of the sea. His fate was not sealed in a battle of cannon fire, nor upon the gallows of a port city, but on a lonely shore, stranded far from the world he once terrorized. It is the tale of a pirate marooned, his struggle against the elements, and the thin thread between freedom and oblivion. The world of the 17th century was a place in flux. Empires, Spanish, English, French, Dutch vied for dominion over oceans that promised wealth beyond imagination. The Caribbean Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the coasts of Africa became stages for a violent theater of trade and theft. Pirates thrived in these waters, their ships darting between colonies, preying upon treasure, galleons, and merchant fleets. Yet even among them there were rules, traditions, and punishments. To be marooned left on an uninhabited island with only the barest provisions was one of the cruelest. It was a sentence carried out not by kings, but by shipmates, and it was such a sentence that set the stage for our pirate's true story. His name was Alexander Selkirk, a Scottish sailor turned privateer, though some would later mythologize. His life in tales of fiction, his reality was harsher, lonelier, and far more human. Born in 1676 in Lower Largo, Fife, Selkirk was quick-tempered and restless, drawn to the sea where the promise of adventure eclipsed the grinding poverty of Scotland. He joined privateering expeditions sanctioned by the Crown to raid Spanish possessions in the Pacific. But aboard the ship's Cinque Ports, Selkirk's voice became too bold. He quarreled with his captain, Thomas Stradling, over the vessel's seaworthiness. Convinced the ship was doomed to sink, he demanded to be put ashore rather than risk death at sea. Stradling granted his wish, though not in kindness. On the island of Msa Tierra, part of the Juan Fernandez archipelago off the coast of Chile, Selkirk was left with a musket, a hatchet, a knife, some gunpowder, bedding, and a Bible. It was September of 1704. He was just 28 years old. The island was no paradise. Its forests were dense, its terrain rugged, its isolation absolute. At first, Selkirk faced despair. His cries to the departing ship echoed against the cliffs and died in the crashing surf. He was alone, utterly so. But as the days turned into weeks, necessity carved new skills into him. He hunted goats, their hides serving as clothes and bedding. He tamed wildcats to keep rats from gnawing his few belongings. He fashioned tools from the remnants of his gear and carved fishhooks from nails. With fire struck from flint, he cooked, boiled, and survived. "I am monarch of all I survey," he later declared when asked of those years, an echo of both pride and melancholy. Months became years. He sang psalms to keep his voice from withering into silence. He read from his Bible, its words a tether to sanity. Ships would occasionally pass the horizon, but many were Spanish, enemies to a Scottish privateer. When one anchored offshore, Selkirk hid in the trees, terrified of capture and enslavement. For years and for months passed in this exile, each season shaping him into something both hardened and haunted. The climax came in February 1709. A ship appeared, but this time it flew not the banners of Spain, but those of England. It was the Duke, commanded by Captain Woodes Rogers. Selkirk, ragged and sun-darkened, ran to the shore. Rogers later wrote of the encounter, "He looked wilder than the first owners of the island, clothed in goatskins which he had stitched with little thongs of the same, having never seen a ship for more than 4 years. They took him aboard astonished by his resilience. His story spread quickly, and his survival made him a legend among sailors. The aftermath of Selkirk's rescue saw him return, not to obscurity, but to a world that had changed while he endured. His shipmates from the Cinque Ports, the very men who had marooned him, met grim fates, captured or killed. Selkirk, meanwhile, rejoined privateering, his experience transforming him into a seasoned navigator. Yet the solitude of those years never left him. He confessed to nightmares, to restlessness, to an unease in the company of men. His tale eventually reached the ears of writer Daniel Defoe, who wove it into the fabric of literature. From Selkirk's survival was born the character of Robinson Crusoe, a figure who would outlive the real man in fame and imagination. The legacy of this stranded pirate is profound. His survival showed the raw tenacity of the human spirit, a will to endure when stripped of society, comrades, and comfort. His story blurred the lines between history and myth, becoming a foundation for one of the greatest novels of the 18th century. Archaeologists and historians have since traced his island, finding remnants that confirm the truth of his years. There go bones, primitive tools, and the faint footprint of a man who mastered solitude. Today, the island where he was abandoned bears a new name, Robinson Crusoe Island, a testament to the merging of fact and fiction. Yet behind the literary fame lies the real Alexander Selkirk, headed sailor, reluctant castaway, and survivor. His story is not just one of endurance, but of consequence. His demand to be left ashore, born of anger and stubbornness, saved his life, for the Cinque Ports later sank, taking most of its crew with it. What seemed a curse became salvation, and so we remember him not as a pirate of plunder and blood, but as a pirate of fate, stranded, forgotten, yet never defeated. His solitude reminds us of the resilience that lies within the fragile yet unbreakable bond between humanity and survival. This has been the amazing true story of a stranded pirate, a tale of the sea, of man against nature, and of a life that inspired legend. Stories like these take hours of research and care to bring alive in full detail. If you value this kind of high-quality historical storytelling, your support ensures more forgotten tales of the past will rise again.